Good afternoon, everybody. It is a Wednesday afternoon. We've got a lovely midweek interview with the great Martyn Lewis, who is from, I believe, am I right in saying, Martyn, you're from Caerphilly originally?
That's right. Yeah.
And where are you
said
now?
it really well there, mate.
Caerphilly. Do you know? I was thinking about the joke. What's the joke? Have you heard about the joke about Caerphilly? Have you heard all the cheese jokes?
No.
Haven't you?
I haven't.
You've got young kids.
Enlighten me.
Have you not heard them? What was it? What kind of cheese? What kind of cheese do you use to hide a horse?
I don't know what cheese you used to hide a horse.
Mascarpone. And the other one was, what was it?
Yeah.
The one about the Caerphilly event is the Caerphilly cheese, isn't there? There's a cheese in Caerphilly, isn't there? What kind of cheese? What kind of cheese do you use to dismantle a bomb? Carefully.
Very carefully.
Yeah, very carefully. So anyway, that's all for the bad jokes. So how are you doing? All right?
Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. And you've had an interesting time with the Nationals. You've had great success with one of your players there on the weekend, right?
Yeah. Mr. Johnny Thompson took home the English Nationals on the weekend, which was a great effort from him. Lost in the final last year to Alex, and went on an improved point this year. And he took it home in three sets, which is great.
Absolutely fantastic. And what is his? How is he like at training? Is he very, very disciplined in training and stuff like that? Or
yeah. He's a student. He's studying part time at the moment. He's done his last year of his master's degree part time. So it gives him a lot. Obviously with COVID as well, he had a lot of time to spare there. We had the status, so we could carry on, which is great. And he's not only with the Nationals, but with international results. Earlier on in the year as well, played for England out in the Europeans. He's kicked on. He's doing well, which is great. Hopefully we'll move on to strength to strength and see where it can take him.
And what does the training look like? What is that like? You know, what is his daily routine? Do these people train once a day, twice once a day, every day? What is it like? You know, so it's.
I'm quite lucky with the program that's been set up in Nottingham. Myself, I come from playing background, so we try to get it as close to a high performance full time training schedule. So you're twice a day. Whether it's not twice on court, it could be once on court, once in the gym. Your rehab program, your strength and conditioning, like I said, the recovery in the cold pools and on land recovery, stretching. It's all encompassed around trying to study as well.
Train harder up to certain events than others, kind of thing. Does that happen?
Yes. It's somebody like Johnny he's just got back onto England funding, so he will be given a tournament program. So his program now may look a bit different to others because he's got more tournaments. So he'll have to look to train and peak for certain events. That will help with his rankings and everything that goes with having funding. Whereas some of the other guys that aren't funded, they're striving to get to be that level. So they will have certain events in the year that they will try and peak for. There's an ongoing Bucks matches that happen on a Wednesday every week. That will be so. They don't peak for those, but there are certain tournaments that they'll look to peak for.
Let's go back and talk about you, if that's all right. I'd just like to know about how you. Obviously, you're from Caerphilly, obviously, after the bad joke. What age did you start? Where did you start? Let's go back to the questions.
Started playing when badminton when I was 11. So fairly late on for some people getting into badminton these days, I suppose. My mum played and my auntie played. I played a bit of tennis before, and obviously rugby and football. So from the tennis, I had a good knack for the hand-eye coordination. Went down to play a bit of badminton. That's the beauty of badminton when you're young. it's quite slow. So you get quite a lot of success early on, and you're not chasing a ball around a tennis court, and the shuttle just lands, and you pick it up and you go again. It was more appealing for me.
Was it a club night thing, Martyn? Or what was that like? Was it a club night thing, or when did you?
That initially was. That initially was just having a hit with my auntie and my mum. Like I said, they played in a club called Bedwas. It was Bedwas Club, and there was a coach there called Alan Jones, who was my first ever coach. He saw me play. We had one session and said, I want this type of commitment. I can't think what it was. It was once a week, but you had to make sure that you did once a week, and it cost mum and dad a fiver, which is ridiculous. I remember it was £3.75 for the court and £5 for the session. So that's unheard of these days. I know. I got into it, and I entered my first tournament under 12, and I got partner wanted, and he was actually the number one in the country at the time.
Wow.
We won the first tournament, and success. Yeah, for any child, if you get success, you just want to do it more and more. So I guess I was quite lucky from that respect. And
were you playing with feathers from the outset, or was it plastic shuttles, or what did you? Where did you?
Plastics, do you remember your first, plastics to start.
Do you remember your first ever racket as well?
The first ever racket was an Axis 65 Prince racket, a teardrop.
Oh, yes.
I think that is actually part of the frame is still at my mum and dad's house, I think. But it's quite funny. I was in my.
Was it hand-me-down, Martyn?
No. It was.
That was your first proper racket, yeah.
Proper racket, yeah. First proper racket. I did enjoy that one.
Was it? But do you remember,
nothing on it. It was just plain blue racket.
Was it a birthday present or Christmas, or did you save up, or where did it come from? Do you remember?
It was definitely a present. I don't think I saved up for anything.
Who did? That's absolutely fantastic. And what about? Do you have brothers or sisters, and did they play as well? Or?
Yeah, two brothers. One was a hooker in rugby, so as you can imagine, he didn't play much badminton. And the other one did. Yeah, he played for Wales all the way through the age groups, and he actually, one of his main rivals was Chris Langridge and Robin Middleton.
Really?
So
that's cool.
Yeah, used to mix it with those guys, which was it was quite cool, really. Both of us playing in the national setup.
What do you think about that? I'm quite curious about that question as to how good do you feel a coach has to be to play? Do you have any experience of any coaches who are maybe not exceptional players and have never even been exceptional players but are exceptional coaches? And what do you think of that? How important is it, your ability, do you think, for the people that you're coaching?
Say that again. Is it ask that question again?
So a coach who conceivably isn't maybe theoretically very exceptional and respected. There's a chap in Scotland called Andy Cook who's been a coach all his life, and he was at a very early age he realised he wasn't going to be a great player. However, he's had exceptional success with most of the Scottish national players. So I was curious as to what you think of how good do you think a coach has to be in himself against. I guess for sparring, I guess it needs to be of a level.
I think it's shown with the likes of Carolina Marin. I'm good friends with Fernando, and he was an exceptional player. County standard, probably, maybe not even that. And he's produced an Olympic champion, so he's proved that you don't obviously need to be yourself hitting in with the players. I think it does help for sure, and I quite like that as a coach, still hitting in with the players myself. But I definitely don't think you need to. As somebody like Fernando and this guy in Scotland, they've shown that you can produce players if you've got the right relationship, you've got the right program, you've got sparring that is available, hitting partners for training. Yeah, you don't need to be a good player. A lot of coaches are.
Respect, I think, is the thing. It's the curious thing for me is the respect. People have interviewed Martin Campbell, and he was coached by Kenny Middlemas, and Kenny Middlemas, I remember him saying to me, was he got to the level that Martin Campbell wanted to get to when he was playing with him, and he was constantly fighting to beat him. And I'm just curious to that thing of when you beat somebody, is when you've beaten somebody, is the relationship, is that player ever going to be as good as the person he's beaten, if you know what I mean? Does that player have to play against a certain, I mean, you look at the Malaysians and, Indonesia and all these places, they're obviously, and Danes to an extent, they're all playing against at a very, very high level. And I guess it's difficult to get better when the level is reached, I suppose. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Yes, it could be difficult. I think I was actually only having a conversation earlier in training. A lot of players, if I take the players here in England, do a lot of training, and we don't have a great club structure where there's competitive matches for the top level. We very rarely have sparring days, and it's quite prevalent at the moment, because myself and Dave Lindley, who is at Loughborough University, we ran a sparring day for all the singles players in England yesterday in Nottingham, and it was just a great chance to come together. They played 10 sets of badminton, but they're learning and playing rather than having to go to tournaments and play, spend all that money to go play tournaments and get your practice that way. Yeah. So sparring, if you can get the sparring, it's a must. You must get the sparring if we're going to be producing high level players. You need that sparring, whether that's from the coach or not. The coaches could get involved with that, but once you get to a certain age, you can't keep up with the youngsters in terms of speed and things like that. So
it's so true. So trying to get situations where you're not necessarily in tournaments and you're actually competing with people of a similar level to yourselves, isn't it? It's quite interesting. Yeah. I had the conversation when I was talking to Martyn. I was saying, so okay, I'm in, playing Edinburgh, and there's a few clubs in Edinburgh, and it's high standard clubs and he probably cut his teeth on that level, right? And when he was younger, right? This is the high level clubs that his dad plays in, and these things, and great. And I actually put the question to him. I said, so okay, back in the time when you were in coaching with the Scottish squad, if somebody said to you, do you fancy going to badminton tonight, would you go? And he was like, absolutely no chance whatsoever. And I guess all these people were the same. Johnny was the same. I guess it's difficult, isn't it? It's work. I guess that's the only way I can kind of process it. Is it's work, isn't it? It's they're working through the day, and it comes to the night time, and what do they want to do?
Yeah, maybe it's different with the guys that I'm coaching, because they've got their studies as well that they've got to do outside of their training. You're looking to get them on court twice a day. It's a minimum of 4 hours out of the whole day. Some of them are doing full-time degrees, some of them do part-time, some do masters, some are doing PhDs. Yeah, it's work. And then to go out and play a club night when they have got maybe a tournament on the weekend, is a good use of rest. Do they need rest? Things like that. Some of these players are also going out to clubs out in France and Germany where they're earning money. So, it's prioritizing. And it's just such a, I said about, you mentioned the Danes and the Indonesians, and they have club structures that all these top players will play in. And it's regular competitive matches that are outside tournaments and outside of their sparring. So there's no wonder that these guys are the best in the world, because they're playing a lot more. They're not just training. And it's a blueprint that we need to follow or get in this country. I know we tried to do it with the NBL.
Yeah, did that fell? Is that?
That
was AJ Bell, really. Right? Was that AJ Bell that sponsored that, wasn't it?
Yeah. I look. We won the last one. The University of Nottingham team won the last one before it folded. So I look at the trophy in the cabinet pretty much every day as I walk into the hall. And I don't know if you ever got to see one or saw it on TV. It was a great initiative. Yes, it costs a lot of money, which was the downfall at the end of the day. But I think maybe it's time to create something here in this country that does offer that fairly regular competition, that there is something on it as well, that you're not paying extreme amounts of money to the players, but they buy into it, because we've got some decent players in the country. I think we if we're going to produce the better players that we have in the past, they need that sparring and that competitive play. and it's just a shame that they have to go to other countries to get it.
I think it's. Do you know the irony is? I think I'm in sales myself, in commercial sales, and it's. I mean, you say it's big money, but it's relative, right? I mean, you know, you look at a company like the company that sponsor these things. It's small fish, you know. It's not a lot of money. It frustrates me, you know. Like, I've had conversations about the commercial side, and I was talking a lot about how players fund in Scotland especially. They struggle a lot financially, you know, to get to training, to go to compete at this level and to travel, and you know, every day is the daily battle of making money to pay for to go to the tournament and whatever. And you know, I'm quite interested in the idea of, you know, these players kind of come from a very early age playing badminton, a lot of them, and they seriously decided, I want to be a badminton player, and they play from 13, maybe even younger, all the way up to kind of early 20s, and they've never had any form of commercial experience. And you know, somebody says you need to go to local businesses and try and get sponsorship. That's a frightening, intimidating thing for somebody that's got a kind of don't be disrespectful to badminton players, but they've had a relatively sheltered life between the age of 13, when they've been realised as exceptional players, how they're ever going to know how to commercially, you know, deal with business. You know, it must be very intimidating. In how they make money.
I think back to when I was younger, it was difficult, because what we don't have is a lot to offer, really. And until you are on the circuit and traveling the world and things like that, you know, what is the offering that we give as a badminton player?
To my
you know,
mind,
social media is different now. Social media is a platform that could be used. You know, there's certain players that are on social media and pushing themselves out there, like Greg and Jenny. You know, they're getting up to 50,000 plus followers. You know, maybe that's the start of something that, you know, people are like, you have to do it now to try and
monetize what we do.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Money is always it's obviously an emotive thing, but it's a difficult one to get around. To my mind, it's, you know, you say that there's, you know, I think it's a little bit of a slightly different mindset from somebody who, it's not just about, you know, this thing about you have to win tournaments to be valuable, where, you know, if maybe we change the tack and make it more interesting about values, core values of sports people, clean living, competitive, hardworking, committed, all of those things are kind of align with business, right? I mean, if you said to somebody, I'm quite fond of that company Laps, Life After Professional Sport. I don't know if you've heard of that. And that's what their belief is. You know, athletes, they've committed, right? You know, you get up early in the morning, you work really, really hard. You're very clean living. You know, you travel, you do what you need to do, and those things are crossing into business. I think is something, right? I don't think it necessarily needs to be about winning tournaments. It could just be that message to, you know, I am local to you. I grow up where you are, and please help me, kind of thing. I'm all over that. I'm sorry.
That's a good way of looking at it. That is the values that sports people have, and you say the commitment. You know, people ask for a degree and things like that because of the commitment, and not only the learning, but the commitment that you show to, you know, getting yourself through a degree. And I take the guys that I coach, you know, you're doing a degree and you're doing sport, and if you're performing to a high level, you know, that shows some balls, and you know, your commitment to everything it's got to shine through it, and that's a very good way of looking at it, actually.
And do you think I'm quite interested in the degrees and people coming to the university, and how much of a decision do you think badminton players or sports people as a whole are made on the basis of the sport that's available to them at the facilities that they choose? You know, when they go through, do you think they go walk around universities and say, I mean, I'm aware of Loughborough, you know, it's just renowned for being badminton, right? And how much, like, when you went to university, do you remember thinking, what's the badminton like when you went to do your degree? Or what did you do?
I only did 6 weeks of my degree, and then I got out.
Did you? My sister did the same thing.
I got out before I had to pay fees. It was great.
But okay, then before
but
then,
no,
so for choosing the facility in the first place, would you say that the badminton was a core decision, a core part of that?
I think for me, when I went, no, it was, I chose Cardiff Met, or Uwick as it was, because I could train in Cardiff, and
Right.
that was where the national centre was, and
Right.
that was my decision. And in fact, I didn't get the grades to get on the course, which is sports coaching, that I wanted to.
Really?
But because of my level in badminton, they offered me a course which, in hindsight, I think I should have stuck out, because it was to do with sport and leisure management.
Yes.
But I just something that I wasn't interested in at the time. But obviously, the people that I talk to, yeah, badminton is a huge part of it. The program that's in place. We're very lucky in Nottingham that we have a very good facility. We got, in one hall, we got 20 badminton courts. It's huge. Big investment about 5-6 years ago, £40 million into a David Ross Sports Village.
Wow.
And then we've got also another 8 courts in a different hall and another 4 courts in a different hall. So a lot of, but we service a lot of sports. So it's multi-sport arenas, basically. It's a big arena. And if I'm perfectly honest, I think the national team should use it if they're going away to play these big tournaments, in a big arenas.
Amazing.
Milton Keynes is just too perfect to play badminton, and you need to come in with it. It's perceived as being a slower hall, play with different shuttles. It's just to get ready for a tournament. It's great.
Because there's
really
more.
is.
What do you think? The shots are slower because there's more air.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just how you perceive it. Yeah. But when you play in a big arena, it's definitely slower. Yes. And I've had countless conversations about why, and still don't know why. Really, it shouldn't really, because the air is the same as a smaller hall. It just is. The sound is different. So whether it's that, and that's the perception, I just don't know.
Yeah, weird. Right, let's go back to the questions. Okay, full name. What age are you?
39.
39. When do you 40? Is that long? Have you got a long to wait?
It was, my birthday was on the 12th of August. So
oh, is
it? Only a couple of weeks ago. So
big one next year.
Big 4-0 next year.
That's good. And well, I like I said, I spoke to you about Scott Oates. Scott Oates said to me, he says, see if you can persuade Martyn to come to the European Championships with him. That was one. And Tim Willis said, what was it now? He said, I remember beating Martyn in Cornwall.
Oh, in
Devon, yeah. Cornwall. That was a message I got.
The chip and charge champion he was.
What's that? What's chip and charge? What, you said that on message? What is that?
It's when you attack against them and you just block it really tight to the net and you just charge the net. And
really?
It's a very old school way of playing, Tim. But you were the champion at it.
Chip and charge, I like it.
But in fairness, he did beat me, so.
Yeah, it's fair. What was that, a long time ago?
Yeah, I was 18.
Oh, really? yeah, that's quite a while ago. He's Is he from? Where's he from? Is he near you?
He's from down
Cardiff way, is he?
No, Devon way. I think
is
he's
he really?
Originally from. But he lives. God, where is he now?
He's in Sweden now, I think.
Now is he in Sweden?
Sweden, I think it is.
Yeah, Sweden now.
His wife's Polish. I know that.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
What was
good mates with Tim. He supported me when I was younger. So big shout out to Tim.
He's a lovely guy. He's a good stringer as well, right? I'm dying to get him on.
He was all right.
Yeah. Well, he certainly strings a lot of rackets. I'm dying to get him on, actually. I'm just dying to get him on, just literally, so I can ask him what age it was when he started swinging. That's what. When did he become a swinger? Anyways, name of your first club.
The name of my first club was the first club I went to was Bedwas, and then I moved on to a club called Penarth. I see YC Sports on here. Obviously, the YC's was heavily involved. I'm not sure if he's still heavily involved in Penarth. But there was a guy called Stuart Dixon and Ange Dixon that ran the club. And, just somebody managing a whole club structure, Stuart was phenomenal. The advice he used to give, the right time as a junior, 15, 16, playing in a second team. But he would mix you in with the first teamers and match you up, and different styles and things like that. Somebody who was aggressive, in nature on court, and you have to go on and try and deal with that, and just that type of learning was great. And he used to have, or the way he used to speak about trying to use deception and trying to use your flair and things like that. It's definitely something that I try and use now with the players that I'm working with. Because
was he a good player, Martyn?
Say again?
Was he a good player?
Ange was his wife. Stuart, I'm not sure. Ange won the Welsh Nationals.
Really, yeah. Nice.
God knows how many times. Yeah, her name's on the trophy millions of times, I think.
Yeah. I love pairing players together, don't you? Where you get players together and you say, I wonder what they would be like. I've run a couple of clubs in town. One club, and that's only for the summer. And I love thinking about, I'd like to see him with them, or you're trying to think about, I wonder how that would be, right? Quite interesting.
Yeah,
in that.
Yeah, it is interesting because you perceive people to have a certain style of play and be stronger at a certain style of play, but then that could change if they're playing with somebody different. And it's you got to be. It's good as a coach to try and match it up, but then you need to have that dialogue with the player to see whether they feel comfortable with that person, with that player, because if they're not, then you're not going to get the best out of them. So
that's true. Isn't it? And do you still play any club now?
No. I played for a club out in Paris. I was there for 8 years. Really? It was great.
You lived in Paris, did you?
Say again?
You lived in Paris?
No. They used to fly me out just to play for. Yeah. No, it was great fun. Yeah. Johnny actually is part of that club now. So I recommended him to the club, and he goes out and plays, and our great friends out. And it's the one that Delphine Delroux plays at. Really? So I played with Delphine from when she came into the first team when she was 14, 15. I always remember we're playing mixed with her, and she moved out from the net, and I moved forward, and I smacked her right on the top of the head. It's like, that's a learning curve for you. Get out of the way.
Do you speak French? Was that? Do you speak French?
Do I speak French? I spoke a little GCSE. I spoke a little bit, but they all spoke English. So it was. To be honest, in the end, I went out for the beer and the baguettes and the wine. So
fantastic experience. That's living the dream, right? Isn't it? That's living the dream, going away for a weekend. And where did we put you up in hotels and all sorts?
No, I used to stay with a couple of families.
Players. Oh, that's awesome.
The Delroux family was one, and the boss of the club, Eric, bless him. His girls are now, God, how old are they? They're teenagers now. I was there when they were born, and not there myself, but obviously when they were growing up.
It's a fantastic life experience, that, Martyn, isn't it? That's
it's good. Good friends that you make, and it's the network that you obviously as a player, and then as a coach as well. If I have a player come to me, can you help me find me a club out in France? I've got a few contacts that I can go to. One of the lads this morning said, I want to go out to training in Asia towards the end of the year. Do you know anybody in Malaysia and in Indonesia? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll send a couple of messages and see what's what. But that's only come about from your network you build up through playing. So
I'm building up quite a network in this. I've already had chats with a group in Indonesia, and it's a different world. There's like in Java, there's just a community of badminton, a facility that's just there, and there's kids from 5, 6, 7, or 8 years old living in and going to badminton every day, all day, every day, and it's absolutely it's incredible. It's a different world, and I mean the facility. I think she's talking about there being 10 courts in her hall, and then you go over the road, there's another building exactly the same, and it's just everywhere, right? It's just absolutely incredible. Anyway, I could talk to you all day.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, it's good. Who was your first coach?
Guy called Alan Jones.
Oh, you said
from Ystrad.
What was that?
From Ystrad, just up from Caerphilly. It was or Ystrad if you're writing it down.
I'm gonna have to Google that one. That's for sure.
Do you remember your first he was like I said. He used to charge a £5, and we used to pay for. He used to. He was. What was he? I can't think what his job was now. But I know he went into like 3D printing in the end. But he used to do that by day, and then from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock, pretty much every night, he'd have individual, and I was coaching. Myself and my brother went there. And yeah, I always remember he said, "I'll only be able to take you so far because I know my limits, and then I'll pass you on to the relevant coach." And he did that, and it so happened to be down to the Welsh squad. And just to have a humble grounding as a player coming from the coach, he was, well, there was none better, obviously, for myself. So which was great, really.
And did you live very local to courts?
Yeah. It was quite easily accessible in leisure centres, and we didn't have a designated badminton hall in South Wales then, so it was leisure centres that I used to go to.
My parents live in Pembroke Dock. They moved from the Scottish borders to Pembroke Dock, which is down the area, isn't it? And I think that's why I actually first of all introduced Jordan Hart at the time as well. He's obviously in Poland at the minute. Yes, he's doing well. Do you remember your first?
That's good.
Your first tournament and trophy, first ever.
But the under-12 Mid Glamorgan.
Under-12 Mid Glamorgan, nice work.
Yeah, the first one I ever played, and yeah, like I said earlier, played with Phil Linnard, he's a partner in a massive law firm in London.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me get my copy of hat on. What's his name, Phil? Yeah. He's a partner in a solicitor's firm in London. Thank you. Thanks for that. There's a lead. My boss asked me what I'll be doing this afternoon. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did you always play the events wise? Singles, doubles, mixed? What do you think of that when you've started and as you've gone on, really, I suppose?
I think you should play all three when you start in till a good age, really. Singles, you get to learn to fight on your own, deal with different pressures on your own. Then your doubles, you get used to playing with somebody, and then I don't know when the optimal age is. I know certain coaches have a certain viewpoint on that. I sit on the fence a little bit. I think I was quite old. I played singles and doubles until maybe early 22, 23 maybe. And then specialised in doubles, because you get to a point where you are doing well at IC events, as they are now, international challenge events, and it's so difficult to play 4 games in a day, 4 matches. If you're playing 3 sets in all those, you're absolutely knackered, and you're never going to excel at one. I think certain events you can do it, ladies singles, ladies doubles. You tend to be able to do that a bit easier than men's singles, men's doubles. But obviously, your doubles and mixed doubles, you could specialise in both of those.
And what was your favourite?
What was my favourite? So, men's doubles was my favourite.
Was it always? Was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's quite unusual, that one,
Men's double, I had most of my successes at men's doubles, so I think I quite like winning. So.
And who is your partner?
Like I said, initially it was a guy called Phil Lillard, and all through juniors I played with him until 18, and then it was a guy called Matthew Hughes.
Right.
And we got up to our highest ranking was number 17 in the world.
Wow.
So we got up to quite high, and then I managed to get onto the UK funding. I don't know if you watched the program Gold Rush before the Olympics.
No, I didn't.
The 3-part series. It's on iPlayer. Have a watch of that, and it goes through the change of UK sports structure from 1996 through to winning all the medals at London, and the decisions that they made to only basically back winners. And they had a criteria obviously that was the criteria that for UK funding, and it was at the time myself and Matt were. I think we dropped to something like number 20 in the world, and I hit criteria because I was younger, and Matt didn't hit criteria, so I made funding and Matt didn't, and it didn't sit right with me, that, so I stuck with Matt, and we tried to hit criteria for another 6 months, which we didn't end up doing, unfortunately, and after a little period, then I managed to get onto UK funding and spent 2.5 years down at Milton Keynes.
And is that funding absolutely critical? Is it? I mean, it's not. I mean, you say funding it. I mean, you talk about funding, and it's just. I think it just gets you by, doesn't it? It's not exactly a luxurious position. It's just enough to pay for you to live and to do the training, right? It's not like it's, if you're in a career position, you wouldn't, it's not a thing for that, is it? I mean, it just gets you by.
No,
You can afford to do what you love, is it?
Funding these days, I think badminton these days, if you're at the top, it's a decent living now. I think you can, your top players in the country, whether it's in leagues, whether it's sponsorship deals, the retainers are decent. It's decent money now, and if you're sensible with it, you can set yourself up for life. Really? Back then, the funding.
So, what are you talking about? The top five? Do you think you think you're sort of talking about top five or something in the UK? What would you think that can comfortably afford? I think if you said number of players, if you like.
I think if you're reaching the top, probably. If you're a British player reaching up to the top 20 in the world, sort of thing now, you're on the Super Series. You're earning money every tournament you go to. You're getting your bonuses from your sponsorship deals. You're getting your retainers. The funding that you get then goes to pay for your tournaments. So because you don't get an APA as it was these days.
Sorry, what is that?
So your annual wage, basically. Right. So when I went down, you got a set amount per month for your wage, and
then you got funding. An APA, is it? I see. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas that I don't think that's a thing these days. I think it goes towards your tournaments and your training and your S&C and things like that.
The financial side's really important, isn't it? It's it's like I say, it's a kind of thing where you have at a young age, there's so many people I've interviewed that have said, I absolutely love badminton. It's all, to be honest, I didn't know what else to do. I love badminton. Somebody said to me, what do you want to do? I just want to play badminton. And it's obviously it takes something, right, to do that. But, the financial side is just so, it's part of life. And how somebody directs you and says, okay, I don't know what it's like in England. What do you think of that? What kind of, if somebody said that in a school, or if somebody said, at what point does a conversation happen, do you think, where somebody says, well, okay, if you want to do it, this is how you're going to do it?
What point?
Like, how are you going to pay? How can if you go to your teacher and say, occupational, you say, okay, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to be a badminton player. That's not going to happen, is it? What else? No, really, what are you going to do? And at what point do you think there's somebody that says, right, okay, what you do is there's some, I suppose you would do that, right? Because you've made money and you've had a career of it. What do you think of that?
I think the big decision comes when you leave school. I think that what path do you go down is after you do your GCSEs, or if you finish it then, or after you do your A levels, because you've got options then, to go to a university that has or can give you a grounding that you could go on after university. So you do your 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, after university. And I think there's a small number now I'll take England. There's a small number of universities that offer a program like that. We don't have many schools that are involved like a French structure where you go and you do your schooling and you train twice a day, all the way from the age of 11, 12. If you're good enough, you'll go to a region in France away from your parents. You're bored but this is all government backed. This is
really, that's awesome.
There's nothing like that in this country. Well, there is a school in Milton Keynes that I know that does it.
Glasgow's got the School of Sport in Glasgow. There's a few exceptional, elite athletes kind of at that thing as well.
I think that's a great that Glasgow school. The Grimleys have come through it, and the girls as well. I think, but it's you need that. I think that choice of whether you go into badminton also depends on how affluent you are. I think if your parents can support you in it. Yes, then right. you have a chance. Yeah, if they can't, then it's such a hard thing to do.
A hard road to finance it. And somebody say, it's that point where somebody says to you the decision makes is yes, he could have a career, or somebody with the best will in the world. Somebody at some point has to sit you down and say, it's a hard question, right? It's a hard, somebody you're telling somebody that absolutely loves what they do, they'll give everything, they'll work as hard as they want, and somebody actually has to say, it's hard.
It is, and John, nothing in life is really easy.
No, for sure.
But when you start to come to make big decisions like that, it is hard, and you can only make a decision and you can go with it. But you have to have, and this is why I tell the students, you can only give the information of what you can offer, and then they make the decision. You can't force somebody to go and do something. So yeah.
It's okay. Well, I think that's
broken up there.
I lost you a little second. I think you're back. Are you okay? Can you see me all right? Yeah, I think we're back.
Yeah.
You froze a little bit. No, I think I've taken enough of your time. That's 40 minutes. Thank you. I'm gonna stop with one. Well, I've got two questions. Who do you think, from yourself, your own point of view, if you could attribute your successes and who do you think, is there somebody that you could point a finger at and say, I've been is there somebody that you can kind of look back in time and say, that guy was so instrumental in my love of the sport and my development as a player?
What I couldn't say one person. It's definitely a few. You've got YC being one, Alan Jones being another, and Stewart. Just the advice and conversations and chats that you have with those people, and my old man as well. Really. He was very. He never pushed me to do something. He would always say, "Don't have any regrets," and try and be proactive rather than reactive. And some just little bits of advice that you get from certain people that you respect, I think, is crucial for you to go on and make your own decisions, and you try and improve every day from that. Another guy is Irwan Shaya, who's now the singles coach out in Indonesia. He's gone from strength to strength. I was best man at his wedding in Wales, and just to have that close link again to somebody who's now doing it and winning. Obviously not himself, but his players are winning bronze medals at the Olympics. It's you take any advice from those people. But obviously through my career, Matthew Hughes was a massive influence. He probably did a lot of the training, the training schedules, and I remember him almost making me cry once because he was having to go with me so hard. But it makes you into the person you are today. And I thank all those for helping me through. And I've got a career out of it with coaching now, and a lot of what those guys have instilled in me, I try and instill in the players that I work with.
Fantastic. One last question I suppose I always ask is, why badminton? There's so many sports out there, and I'm sure in Wales there's rugby and all these things that everybody's at. What do you think? It's hard to put it on a fag packet, but what do you think is about badminton that makes it different from other sports? That's my parting question always.
Or different from other sports? I don't know if it's different, but the people are very similar within badminton, I find. And I suppose maybe that's what the difference is. Maybe you get in football, you get a lot of egos and things like that. I don't think you get it in the badminton world, but when you're deemed a minority sport, I think you come together a bit more. Maybe that's something that's a big difference for badminton. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody's got a different answer, so it's quite interesting. The people that often comes up, people say it's the people, it's friends I've made, people I remember, people I know, people I've always played with. I played with from day one, and you still know, and you kind of everybody I think has a kind of a love of the sport, I suppose, which is the key thing, I suppose. Thank you very much. Definitely. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
I've really enjoyed it. It's interesting, and I've got another new friend. So thank you. Enjoy
problem.
this.
No problem.
Do you still have sunshine down where you are? It's lovely and sunny here. I'm going out in the garden.
Yeah, it's raining.
Is it?
It's raining.
Sunshine in Scotland isn't a common thing. Martyn,
above the clouds, I think it's sunshine.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to meet you, and we'll speak again. Take care. Have a great day. It's been awesome. Thank you. Cheers.